Welcome to episode 20 of Vessel and Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Charlson. And in every episode, I share channel guidance from my guide, Monty, to help us really begin to understand how we can work with our soul energies and energetic mastery a little bit more. In today's episode, we're going to be covering how you can start using intentional energetic practices to create specific outcomes in your physical world around you and begin to change your reality. Let's get into it. And today's episode, I want to give you first, before we get into Monty's message, a real world example of how working with energy first allows you to create specific outcomes through what we would say is manifestation. When Monty talks about manifestation, he has a bit of a different definition because for him, manifestation is as soon as an energy is separate and exists, it is manifest, whether it's in physical or non-physical. But for us in physical creation, when we talk about manifestation, we mean it's something we can touch, we can measure, we can interact with in physical creation. So keep that in mind as you're listening to Monty's message, is sometimes spirit beings, Monty and others, have a hard time really understanding our prioritization of the physical world over the non-physical world. Because for them, the physical world is this tiny little itty sand grain of all that is, and that the non-physical world is so much more important and so much more profound, and there's so much more of it than physical creation. So keep that in mind as you're listening to this message, that the spirit perspective is a little bit different than the human perspective because they're so focused on the non-physical. But to Monty's point, that when we focus on the non-physical, it allows us to create things in the physical so much easier because things start in non-physical first. So I want to tell you the story about how I manifested my dream car, because I know that there's always that story. And I really love this story because it's a great example, but at the same time, it does feel a bit cringe to me because at this point in my spiritual journey, I do not care about manifesting a car whatsoever. But at that point in my spiritual journey, it was very early on. And I really wanted to prove to myself that I was capable of manifesting things in physical reality. Where we were at in the time and scheme of things is we were very shortly after quarantine. There were almost no new cars were being manufactured as a result, and they were very hard to come by. Basically, if you found a new car, you had to buy it sight unseen before you even got to test drive it because they were so hard to find. And as well, you couldn't be picky about the features or the color or anything like that. You pretty much had to take what you could get if you were trying to buy a new car. And it had gotten to the point where I had my car, I bought it used from a previous owner, and the engine bolts had rusted away. If you know anything about cars, that basically means the engine could drop out at any time while you're driving it. And I constantly had fear that this car was going to break down, that I was going to be injured, that it couldn't drive well at high speeds, and that it wasn't safe, and would have a lot of anxiety about driving this car on a consistent basis. And I knew it was time to buy a new car. My used car basically was hard to replace because there weren't anything available. There were no used cars that I could purchase at the time, basically, that they were well over market. That the car that I had bought for $6,000 years and years ago was actually worth $7,000. So I knew buying a used car was not a wise decision. And I thought, okay, I'm going to buy a new car. But the issue was I couldn't find the car that I wanted. The reason being, I was able to test drive something that had similar feature set, but was more expensive. And I wanted to get it for as cheaply as possible because I didn't want all the bells and whistles. But I wanted the different capabilities that that car had at that model. It felt very safe, very secure to me, felt well built after looking at quite a few new cars. But the problem was we couldn't find one for 1,000 miles around us. And as soon as one would come listed, we'd call and say, hey, is this one available for purchase? And they say, oh, sorry, it's already been sold. So I keep thinking, I'm going to manifest this car. I really want this car. And I kept focusing on the energy, not the car itself, but the energy that I wanted the car to have. I wanted it to feel safe. I wanted to feel as though I could be independent in this car, that I wasn't going to break down on the side of the road. I wanted to feel not only empowered in this car, but also like that this car was an embodiment of my own energy and what I wanted to be at that time in my life. I kept focusing on that energy, not the car specifically, not the color, Not the specific model that I wanted, not the specific features, just that energy of what I was calling forward in a car. And that's why Monty, in the rest of this channel message that he shares today, and please note, we record his channeled section first before we record these. He is really indicating to me, this is what I want you to talk about on the human side. As I've continued to do this for about 3 months of really visualizing this car that I want, not in its what specifics it is, but in the energy that I wanted to feel when I was driving the car, and imagining I'm driving this car and I'm feeling this way without regard to what the car is, just that it's a car and I'm feeling this energy as I'm driving. And I start to feel that way in myself. Obviously not when I'm driving my current used car, because it feels like it's about to fall apart as I'm driving it, but definitely in those moments where I'm in meditation, I really focus on it. And one day in the middle of the night, around 2 in the morning, I wake up. My spirit team says to me, hey, go check right now. The car that you want is there. And sure enough, I go to the listings on my local dealer, and they have the exact car I want with the exact features. That I don't want the premium sound system. I just want the base sound system. I want the red car because I like the color red, and I want this particular make and model. And there it is. And as soon as I kind of wake up the next morning, and I could barely sleep because I was so excited, and I was like thinking to myself, well, this car's surely already been sold. I call the dealership. They don't even know that they have it. It's been part of a trade that a car that they had on their lot, another dealership wanted, and they didn't know what they were going to be receiving as part of that trade. And the car wasn't even done being manufactured yet, but they knew that they were going to be receiving it. And we went to the dealership and test drove another version of the car, different color, but the same sort of feature set, and said, this car feels great. I feel the way that I've envisioned feeling while I'm driving this car. This is amazing. We decide we're going to go get lunch, and then we'll come back and make a final decision. And as we're driving away, we get a call from the rep that we had spoken to, that we had done the test drive with. Hey, somebody else is going to buy it out from underneath you if you don't come back and put a deposit on it right now. Because that's how competitive it was to buy a car at that point in time. So we turned around and we put on a deposit because we said, we really think this is the car. This is the one. And we ended up being able to get that car 2 months later. It took quite a while for it to come in. But then when we finally got to drive the car off the lot for the first time as a final test drive before we signed the paperwork, I could feel just that energy that I'd always intended to feel was so much more prevalent than what I could ever imagine inside of this car. As we signed the paperwork, I just felt this alignment that this is the right thing, even though it's more than I originally wanted to spend. And as we get to the final deposit amount of what we're going to pay for our initial payment on the car, as we're signing the paperwork, the total was $3,333.33. And that was a sign to me that absolutely this was the right thing, of that synchronicity. I'm not one that gets a lot of angel numbers like that are quite that long. I get those quite rarely, so they're very important to me. And we drive home with the car, and it is just an amazing experience. So I'm going to let Monty take it from here of what the spirit perspective of this process is and what he sees it on his side of the equation. Your understanding of energy and how you can work with it will dictate your success in life. We mean by this that physical means are always limited. Physical actions are always limited in their ability to create outcomes. But energy and its limitless potential has no limits to what you can create with it. And learning how to use energy to create outcomes in your life will give you many more capabilities than what your physical form can do, than what you can do through physical action or through thinking action focused on the physical world. But rather allowing yourself to begin to work with energy, to begin to be a master of energy, will allow you to realize the success that you are seeking in your life. The first step to becoming a master of energy is learning the movement of energy from one place to another and allowing yourself to intentionally work with energy to do that. Because when things come into physical creation, it is the act of energy moving from the non-physical to the physical. You can also move energies in physical manifestation, however, they are in specific formats, and so therefore may be more difficult. such as telekinesis and psychokinesis. However, allowing yourself to learn how to work with energies from the non-physical and moving them to the physical to create things in physical reality is one of the easiest ways that you can begin to work with energy to create success in your life. The important understanding here first is that your focus must be on the non-physical first and foremost, rather than the physical. And what you must also come to terms of acceptance is that energies from the non-physical can manifest in many different forms in the physical. Your intention is rather from moving one energy from the non-physical to physical and accepting that the results may not be exactly what you want in physical manifestation all the time, but that it will always be the physical form that you need in that moment. And that is the key, is a state of surrender about moving energy from the non-physical to physical, and that you will always get what you need, but it may not always be exactly what you desire in physical form. So, for example, if you are wishing to be able to buy a new car, you need to focus on the non-physical energies that that car incorporates for you, rather than its specific physical format. So what we mean by that is, if a new car for you would represent the ability to be independent, the ability to move safely throughout physical creation, the ability for you to afford the car, in other words, that it is not detracting too much of your own energy, that it is in energetic equilibrium with you. You need to focus first on those energies and creating those energies in the non-physical world. And you can do this very simply and naturally with your own intention. You are able to create any energy in the non-physical world that you want in the moment that you want it. So, if you wish to create the energy of independence, merely with your intention, create the energy of independence. Allow yourself to create this energy right in front of you and to allow that to grow and become more powerful and more intentioned, and to allow yourself to create more and more of it. As you do this, you will also notice that you become that state of independence within yourself. That as you are creating energies in the non-physical world, you are also being those energies at the same time. And as you incorporate this into your state of being, that you are creating this energy in the non-physical, you will begin to translate that energy into the physical world, because your state of being in physical creation is the transfer of energy from non-physical to physical. So as you create that energy, even if it is externally in the non-physical, you will also simultaneously be creating within yourself that energy of independence, of being independent. And so that energy will thus become attracted to you in different formats in physical creation, because you are moving that energy from the non-physical to the physical realm. Because your vessel, your physical form, is how you bring energies to ground, how you bring energies into physical creation. So just the act of allowing yourself to create the energy in non-physical creation allows your state of being to also reflect that. And when your state of being reflects that, then you will create that energy in physical manifestation. Now, the next step after you have created that state of being and created the many different energies that something in physical creation would represent for you, and being all of those states of energies, allowing these energetic balls that you have created, or however they show up for you in non-physical creation using your psychic senses, allow them to be surrendered to the universe. Allow the universe to then take these and allow them to move into physical creation, how the universe orchestrates. And that is divine will in action of how that shows up in physical creation. But it is important for you to maintain that state of being, that when you created that energy in non-physical, you also grounded down that energy in your own physical creation through your state of being. And if you are able to persistently maintain that state of being, of those energies of, say, independence and security and equality of balance, then you are able to allow yourself to be in that state of being. And as the universe takes those energies that you have created and coordinates through divine will in physical manifestation, what you need will begin to arise in your reality. Now, this is where it becomes a bit more complicated, is that it may not at first show up in the format that you would most desire. And that does not mean that you need to reject it. It does not mean that you need to say, I am complete now. I am no longer needing that state of being of independence and security and equality of balance of energies within myself, but rather saying, thank you, universe. I'm going to continue to be that because as you are being, you are continuing to create in the non-physical. And this allows more opportunities for different physical formats to come into your reality of that energy embodied. But you must maintain that consistency of embodiment, even though it may not be in the format that you want. Do not allow yourself then to create the energy of disappointment and be disappointed, but rather allow yourself to say, yes, please, more thank you. I will maintain this inconsistency, knowing that the creation of my desire is still coming. It is still coming because I trust and surrender to the wisdom of divine will, the wisdom of the uncertainty that I do not understand how it's going to happen, but I am going to maintain that in my state of being because then I am radiating out those energies and creating them in non-physical creation. And as you do this, you will find that what you want shows up again and again in different physical formats. And each one is better than the next, more useful to you, more in alignment with you as you are being those energies. But the key is to maintain that state of alignment in your energy to the energies that you want. Even if it shows up, even if you have it, just allow those things instead to continue that mode of creation within yourself. Now, this is a bit different than many of the manifestation advice that you have been given, where you must reject the thing in physical creation because you would come to a mode of completion. But that is not true. It is more that your focus needs to be maintained, that instead of saying, this must be it, that is all I can create, I must not be as powerful as I think I am, trust instead that if you maintain that consistency, you are working with the universe through divine will. We hope that this helps you understand a bit more about how you begin to work with energy to bring things about in physical creation. Always trusting that you are capable of this because you are limitless. We send you great love. That is all. The biggest takeaway from what Monty has to share, at least for me, is the focus on the energy and the non-physical is the first step. And that instead of constantly having to reject and say, no, that's not what I want, no, that's not what I want, and kind of almost get into that mode of frustration of creating that energy within ourselves of feeling unserved and unsupported by the universe, to rather accept it, but maintain that consistency of the energy that you want to cultivate within yourself. After I received that car, now every single time I drive it, I feel that same energy. And it's kind of a reminder of I can have that independence and that security within myself, that the car is a physical manifestation of that. I'm not going to deny it because we interact with things in physical manifestation. Different things have different energetic signatures for us, and they can give us that energy. But also, I am creating that energy within myself, and it serves as kind of that energetic reminder of, hey, you can create your reality. And that reality is one of feeling safe and secure and well taken care of and feeling independent, but also feeling very connected and allowing yourself to feel those synchronicities in support of your spirit team that told you to go check the dealer website and call first thing in the morning, and that everything was in alignment with the final deposit amount being a very complexly long angel number. For me, and really understanding that focus on the non-physical being first, that is what I feel I should be prioritizing most of the time. And that's not to say that I need to have a very ungrounded perspective of the world and that I need to be focused on the non-physical so much that I'm not here and present in my life, but rather that I am moving the energies from the non-physical into me and allowing those to become my being and how I move through the world. So it's really about grounding what's in the non-physical into the physical and that process of moving energy. That's my big priority. And it's probably no surprise that then I am a voice channeler and I bring the non-physical into the physical all the time as my mode of creation and really surrendering to that. But you can think of yourself the same way of that you are a vessel for the things that you want in non-physical creation through into physical means. That is part of what you are capable of as well. I hope this episode has clarified a little bit about the process of manifestation, how you can begin to manifest the things that you want in your life. And the key, I think, is that consistency of really prioritizing being that energy that you wish to be on a consistent basis, regardless of what's happening in physical creation around you. If you'd love to have more guidance from Monty, you can join us in a private session where you can ask usually between 8 and 10 questions of whatever you're going through and get some solutions from Monty and your spirit guides. As well as you can join us in the Awakened Authenticity membership for weekly messages. This month, we are working through the energy of failure and how we react to failure as a state of being. And it's been really eye-opening for me because I'm someone that goes through a lot of guilt when I experience failure. And Monty has been guiding us through the differences between guilt and shame and how we can begin to view failure in a different way and actually make those quantum leaps through failure that we really desire in our lives. So we hope that you join us in there if you're interested in learning more. We will see you in the next episode.